And who wants to do the introduction? Jenny or Stephen, one of y'all? The good morning, no, that kind of
Either
stuff.
one.
Okay, whoever wants to jump in. But when you hear the music, we get started. All right, I believe live. Got festive music
Good
this morning for
morning.
you, Stephen.
I guess we're live, aren't we?
We are live. We are live
Good
this
morning,
morning.
everybody. We are live and here on the last Wednesday of April, Wednesday, April 28th.
Yes.
And we are getting cranked up. How are you, Christian?
Cranked up. Wonderful. Welcome everyone to Coffee and Ponducci. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Mama Ruth, who is off today. We're ruthless again today. And also Barbara Bacon and Stephen DeFiore. And I said that right, I think, didn't I? I've been trying to practice. Oh, Stephen, I can't hear you.
He's not muted. He doesn't show muted.
Nope, couldn't hear you. Oh, well, we're gonna have to work on Stephen's voice. It was working right before the show.
No,
Jenny, did you give him the eye, or what happened there? It's just
I put some gremlins in his computer.
Well, today
I snuck in some vaccine microchips.
Last week I was in and out, so it's Stephen's turn this week.
Yes, that's right. I know Barbie may have to leave us early, or at least leave us and come back or whatever. So let's get started. Yeah, so let's get started. As Jenny mentioned, today is the last Wednesday of April, or as Mama Ruth says, I can't believe the month is over. Yes, it is the 28th of April, and next week starts May, or maybe this week, I don't know when May 1st is. So today our topic, which we'll get into, but we want to talk about current events first, is PBS, Public Broadcasting, taxpayer-funded all-white media, question mark. We're asking that question. It's not a statement, it's a question. So before we get started, let's go around the Brady Bunch screen as we always do. Introduce yourself and your imaginary button. Does anybody have the Brady Bunch screen up? I am not looking at that. So
hey, I do.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Oh, I think.
Is my audio working again now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, you're up and running now. It looks like it's Barbara, Jenny, and then Stephen. So let's go ahead and introduce yourself and your imaginary button.
Okay, good morning. My name is Barb Bacon, and I'm a healthcare advocate and now chauffeur this morning for the South Charlotte area. I would have two buttons. Even though I'm for healthcare for all, I'm still Black Lives Matter. And people are calling me, because I live in North Carolina, verbally abusing me because we're not showing those police video cams. I said a law is involved, so I have no idea. I don't know anything about that. And then my other one is gun control. Let's get it done. Maybe after all the talking heads on Sunday, they were saying that they're working on it in the Senate. We shall see. But that's it for me. Jenny? Stephen?
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Jenny James Gunn. I am involved with Charlotte Pride and the National Organization of Women Charlotte. I guess if I was wearing buttons, obviously, one of them would be protect trans kids. Again, the QAnon Republican Party has an all-out assault against trans kids, including trying to pass bills to refuse medical treatment to trans kids. And in Texas, they have a really hideous one where CPS can take away the kids from the parents, and it's considered child abuse if they do any kind of affirming care, including mental health. So if you do live in Texas, please contact your local representatives in the House and the Senate and demand that these type of hideous and vicious attack bills do not pass and don't get signed by the governor. Stephen?
Hi, I'm Stephen DeFiore. I am the recording secretary of the Libertarian Party here in Mecklenburg County. If I had a button, mine would be end qualified immunity. I think that agents of the state, whether they're cops or politicians or even bureaucrats should be held to the same standard of law as everybody else. And I'll say, yes, gun control is a good idea, because why not let only the government and the people who work for the government that shoot unarmed Black men be the only ones to have guns? That's a great idea. I'm kidding, of course, but we can agree to disagree on that.
We do have to add,
Funny, but yeah.
well, for those who don't know Stephen, he has a dry sense of humor, but it is his usually has a statement in that humor. Every time I listen to you, Stephen, I'm reminded to put my radio voice on and my television voice. So I'm going to deepen my voice so I can match you today, because you have such,
radio.
no, you have such a great voice. It's like, you know, it's anyway. So and it's going to go high by the end of the show. As we always do on Coffee Monday, let's salute to our neighbors. Salute whatever you're drinking this morning. Rafael Preto is not with us this morning, or Charlotte, so I guess everyone's not drinking alcohol this morning.
No.
Also, let's salute our Pondusa sponsor here in Charlotte, North Carolina, Manolo's Bakery. Manolo's Bakery is located on Central Avenue in the Plaza Midwood, outside the Plaza Midwood, east side of Charlotte. Please support your Black and brown businesses during this global pandemic, and support all small businesses so we can speed up our recovery. And as Mama Ruth told us about a month and a half ago, Manolo has opening a new project in Matthews, North Carolina, which is just 2 blocks from us here. Yeah, Barbara. I think he's going to give us more details in a couple of weeks. It's some kind of eating place. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm always excited because I have to go all the way to East Side. Not that it's far. I have to go all the way to East Side, you know, to get it. So let's talk about current events. A lot's going on. Another candidate's entered the race as a Republican. Ted Budd this morning announced he's running for U.S. Senate here in North Carolina to join all of the QAnon, Jenny calls them the QAnon group. Pat McCrory is on. Laura Trump is thought to maybe be running. There's Mark Meadow, I believe, is running. There's several people running. On the Democratic side, our former Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court announced that she is running. That's I'm very excited about that. So she's joining another Black woman, strong Black woman in North Carolina, Erica Smith, to be running. And then you have Jeff Jackson, who is considered the, I don't know who would consider him, but he's on the race. He's raised like $2 million. Yeah, and then you have a couple of other ones. So,
actually, Beasley, she made she made NPR. I was listening to the NPR newscap. Like they do like a 5-minute like cap of 10,000 foot view of everything. I was just listening to it in the morning on my way to work, and like the blurb came out like, oh yeah, Supreme Court, of North Carolina, person, whatever, with Beasley is running and all that. I'm like, oh hey, North Carolina made the news for something other than an authoritarian law out of Raleigh that supersedes local control and authority. That's nice for a change.
Yes.
I know Jenny wants to jump in because she and I had a long conversation Sunday. Jenny,
I'm super excited for Justice Beasley to be jumping into the race. I think she brings a tremendous amount of experience and statewide recognition. And quite frankly, you want this race to be hard fought.
Yes.
You don't want, basically, there's a lot of people, especially in Charlotte, that really wanted Jeff Jackson to have just more or less a layup. And I think that is a mistake. I think when you make your primary too easy, you don't get battle hardened and tested. So if he does come out on top, which is a possibility, at least he's pushed, because whatever we do to him as a Democratic Party, and I'm speaking for myself, versus what the Republicans are going to do to him, is pales in comparison. So, I'm excited to see fierce competition. I think all primaries and all elections should be fierce and intense, no matter who wins. And I want to see. I want to see more party equity and parity. I want to see some of our elections change, and see other, I don't know if you want to call them third parties, be able to compete but we have to remove some blocks for them to be competitive, and there's a lot of
I'll say
things.
this, third party guy, I truly believe that we need more equity in our elections, because right now the big two they eat everybody's lunch, and you just can't compete unless you are one of the big two. Why? Because the media outlets will just not cover you. They just won't. They'll invite you and then they'll uninvite you the day of, and then they won't tell you where they're going to be, so you can't show up anyway. So if you can't get press, if you can't get newsletters, if you can't get on TV shows, if you can't get interviewed, if you're not invited to debates, you're not allowed to participate in the public square, by the corporate masters of the duopoly, then you can't really compete. So I think equity in the election system would be awesome sauce. I want to see more libertarians. I want to see more Greens. Heck, even the Constitution folk might be interesting to see. I want it all on the table.
Yeah. Hey,
and I think especially with the big race every 4 years, the presidential election, ending the electoral college, I think, is a necessity. I think it locks out the third parties. I think, just a straight winner take all race, like all of our other things, like the Senate, the House, the governors, the 50 different governors, the whole 9 yards, is a winners take all race.
Yeah.
And I for the life of me, I don't know why we still have a Jim Crow racist electoral college when we've had one party.
That's very simple. Our elections are what's called first past the post, which means 50% plus one takes everything. And the electoral college system is dominated by the duopoly, the two parties. And it benefits those who are in power. Like, that's why it's there. There have some states, I think like Maine, that are experimenting with what they're called representative voting or proportional voting, so that you can do it's called ranked choice voting. So you can put in your first, second, and third choice, and it alleviates people voting for the lesser of two evils spoiler effect. In theory.
Hey guys, I just got to cut you off only because our current events round was supposed to be something really quick, so we don't.
It's only been 13 minutes, Christian.
Yes.
Just so you know.
No, but the reason I'm telling you that, because I do want Barbara to comment, because she's an independent. How does she feel about these new people coming in? But also, when she comments, I also want to talk about a really big current event. It looks like this season in North Carolina, the northern part of North Carolina is going to be impacted by the Broad X breed of the cicada invasion that comes out every 17 years. So every 17 years, cicadas come up from the ground like zombies, and they storm different regions of America. There are 10, I believe, breeds, and the Broad X breed is in this region, and it'll be coming out, and we'll be there's going to be hatching, I believe, the end of spring, first of summer. And but I want you to know that the ones that are hatching were born 17 years ago. They stay in for 17 years, and they come out every breed. So every couple of years, one different breed comes out. Well, this is called the Broad X. So does anybody, we only have a couple more minutes, but anybody feel afraid of that, running into them? I don't know. Barbara, what do you think?
So I actually know a little bit about cicadas. So they're really cool. They're very long-lived insects. They can live up to 17 years in the case of the Broad X. They hatch as eggs, and then they burrow into the ground as nymphs. So if you ever walk along the forest and you see those little empty shells that are stuck to the wall, those are the nymph version of a cicada, and they just live in the ground for a decade or more, eating roots and stuff like that. And then when they come out as a cicada, they only live for a couple weeks, and they don't even have mouth parts. They can't eat or anything, and all their energy is stored in them, and they just make a lot of noise and breathe. They're like rock stars.
So Barbara, what do you think about that, since you live on a golf course? I mean, I
remember them when we first moved here. I think it was 2 years after we moved here. It was the 17th year, and I'm like, what does that mean? And it was really noisy. we really couldn't be on our screened-in porch. They made so much noise. So, as long as they can't eat anything, I don't care. I really battle with the deer, and I don't know. They can't.
I'm imagining,
I
I'm
guess I don't
imagining
care.
people stepping all over them. I don't know, Jenny. I mean, you grew up in Texas. I grew up in Texas. I remember we called them chichadas, which I don't know if that's Spanish for them or that we just couldn't pronounce cicadas. But we used to put little, no, if you caught them, you could put strings on them and you would fly them like kites. We actually did that. That's crazy. But
Oh,
Jenny, tell me what you think.
That's a little serial killer-esque. But
That's true.
anyway,
It's real bootleg.
psycho. But anyway, yeah, as a kid, I remember, one year with the, I don't know which species of the cicadas were just going off, and I think I was living in North Texas at the time, and yeah, they're extraordinarily loud. They're pretty cool looking, to me.
Mhm.
I've a couple friends that are in the science of insects. I can't recall the term, but it's, yeah, it's pretty fascinating. One of them is getting her master's from West Texas A&M, and it's just, she talks about that stuff all the time on her Snapchat, and it's pretty cool. I don't know much about it, other than what pops up in the news every once in a while, but they are loud. They are crazy. I remember in 2004, I was living in the Ozarks when that happened, and they were there too, and it was awfully loud. Kind of a crazy summer.
I'm just waiting for Charlotte News to do stories all summer long about the cicadas. And so I don't know how much more exciting you can, I mean, they're going to be like running into people.
We can make it even more exciting.
What?
Cicadas are high in protein, low in fat, and gluten-free,
No,
and make it
not that. Ew.
right. There are a bunch of recipes online. They're easy to collect, right? They
Yeah.
can't hurt you. They just buzz and stuff. So you just
Yeah.
put them all in a bucket. You roast them at 225 degrees. You can dip them in chocolate fondue. They're crunchy and delicious.
Well,
yeah,
Okay.
you just get that.
all right. Yeah. All right. So
If you
let's,
have an air fryer,
Oh, when does this start?
they start hatching end of spring.
Now?
Yeah,
Now?
this year. Mhm. So we should start seeing them. I assume they're all gonna, I guess the ground has to be a certain temperature before they all come up.
Yeah.
But if you Google cicadas, you'll see like the map, there's like different colors. And every couple years, one breed hatches or comes out. And we're part of this broad X band, and it's like northern North Carolina all the way up, like 3 states going up. And so it'd be interesting to see. I'm just excited because, people in Charlotte, I'm just like, I'm waiting for people just to, it's going to be, and, everywhere else that our viewers, and our viewers in Florida and Texas are going to be going, those crazy North Carolinians. All right, let's get into our topic. So,
If you find any recipes, please share.
Oh, boy.
I tell you what, well, Stephen, you eat one and I'll fly one, and then we'll see, which one is more exciting.
On the
So,
show. Do that.
yes, yeah, that'd be funny. That would be good. All right, so let's get into our topic. How this topic kind of came about is a couple of years ago, I was watching a series called The African American Experience on PBS. And I was at my in-laws' house out in the country, and they only get, they don't get a lot of digital stations, and PBS they have 4, digital stations. And I wasn't able to finish the series, so I went online to buy the series. And if you donate $150, they send you the DVD. And I got the DVD, and then I also joined their Passbook Club, which is if you make monthly donations, you become a member, and then you can watch the streaming, and then you can also, get special events and so forth. So I did that. So I started watching that, and then not too long after, there was another kind of series in the evening called Latinos in America. This was during Hispanic History. This was during Black History Month. They were kind of promoting. And of course, you buy the DVD and so forth. And so then I said, I'm really going to start supporting PBS, as trying to watch it as much because I don't watch regular television. I watch MeTV, I think maybe, and the streaming service. And of course, the pandemic hit and everyone's binge watching shows. Yeah, binge watching shows. And so my in-laws, they loved at that time, well, even before then, because it's not shown anymore, Downton Abbey. Downton Abbey was on, and I was like, I can't watch that. You know, that's just not my thing. I like period pieces, but it's not real, and it just wasn't great. So as we started camping last year, a lot of the rural areas that we're in don't get internet, cell phone service, but you can get some PBS stations if you have your antenna in a certain way. And I would be in the camper watching television. I would be watching PBS shows, and especially during the day or whatever. And I started watching them, and I was like, man, there's a lot of white hosts. I mean, it was like, people building cabinets, gardening, travel, all those little half-hour shows, cooking shows, tons of cooking shows. And then I found Patty's Mexican Kitchen, which is one of the ones I watch. And that's really the only kind of ethnic show on there. They have a Southern show with the black chef that's on there as well. So we started talking about it. And then we went, camping season started again. I went camping. I watched 4 hours straight of all 4 channels. White. There was one black host who did a North Carolina travel show, and she didn't get to travel. All she does is introduce the travel, and then you see white people traveling. And I'm like, how come she can't travel? On the other shows, the people travel to all the fun places and so forth. So then I asked, my goodness gracious, I don't know if anyone notices, but there's not a lot of diversity in the show. So I did my research, and I'm going to show you what I have on the screen. We're going to try to share the screen here. And tell me if you can see this. Can you see?
Yep.
What can you see?
See a picture
You
of
and Andrew.
you,
Oh,
other fella in front of a pond.
all right. Well, that's not what I want, but all right. I have another screen here, and I guess that's.
Did y'all get a new show on PBS?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Camping with Christian and Andrew.
I thought maybe you were getting a show on TV. I was like, kidding.
How cool is that? As long as if you hear the banjos now,
That's right.
run, just run.
So if you Google PBS, and then there's PBS Charlotte, and then I went to PBS Charlotte, and PBS Charlotte or PBS North Carolina used to be PBS UNC. The University of North Carolina system runs the PBS kind of state network here, and it's run through their School of Communications. And they have an affiliate, the Charlotte station, and they have a Raleigh station. Well, the shows that are in North Carolina are produced by the Raleigh station, and it still shows out. And if you go and look at the shows, the local produced shows, there's about 8 shows, and they all have white hosts. There is one that is a kind of it's a local show out of Raleigh-Durham. It's about black politics and black whatever, and there's a female professor from the University of North Carolina that hosts it. And so, as I look at that, and then I looked at all the primetime shows, I went there, looked at the pictures, all the period pieces, Doc Martin, Downton Abbey, a lot of by the BBC, they bring over and they sell them to the stations around the country. They're all period pieces, and they're mainly all white cast. And of course, I start thinking, were there no black and brown people in those period pieces? And so, I started watching that, and then I went to how are they funded? PBS started in the late 60s, early 70s, and they were a network of affiliates of public broadcasting stations, and they started in opposition to the networks not really being very diverse. So one of the first shows on was called Soul. It was a black variety show, and it was on from 69 to 72, I think 3 years. And it was a very controversial show because it had all black poetry and black variety, and it was very kind of in your face, all kinds of stuff. Well, Congress at the time was so offended by it that they had hearings about defunding PBS because they wanted to stop this, they were against the war, and they wanted to kind of stop this rhetoric. And that has really been the last big black variety show in America, and that was on PBS. So we fast forward now, and my question is, and I don't know how much you guys watch it, or if you want to do some investigation, is PBS the last taxpayer-funded all-white media? I mean, it is funded by local taxes, state taxes, community, whichever, every state runs their networks differently. South Carolina runs their networks through a fund, a state fund, and then they get money from private donations. These are foundations that produce these big shows like the Frontline, all of those private donations. And then they also have public funding. It's like a partnership. And then of course, from donations from viewers like you, us, we also donate to these shows.
I guess I'll jump in and rescue you here. It is, I think for one, I think there's so many networks out there now. I have to say, full transparency, I haven't watched a PBS show in decades, for whatever reason. Probably the last time that I've had PBS on was when my oldest child was little and we watched Sesame Street together, and things like that. That's been a minute. That's been quite a while, actually. And so for me, my only connection to PBS was the children's programming. For myself, being a child of the 70s and 80s, when I was real little in the early 1970s, I watched the Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and all that. And so when I hear PBS, that's what I think of. I think of children's programming. I've never watched PBS's primetime programming or any of the variety of shows. And so for me, I would be completely ignorant on the subject. As far as the representation, I think unfortunately, the local affiliates probably are guilty of not pushing the envelope, and it's surprising being set in academic arenas that you would have that lack of diversity, because I know the University of North Carolina system has had pretty good practices on other things that I've been involved with. I know UNCC has done some really good workshops when it comes to women's issues and things of that nature that I've gone to. So I don't know if there's just a lack of awareness, or it's just not a priority, or whoever's running it maybe just is asleep at the wheel. And that, that's not really an excuse, but I think it could be they're just doing the same thing over and over again and just going best practices out the window. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, Barbara, do you watch PBS at all? I mean,
I do.
Okay. I mean,
like I said, I got away from it because you get involved in something and then all the programs I was watching disappeared. And I know a couple of my friends pay money every month. I said, why am I going to pay money? I'm already paying so many different funds. But I do watch Masterpiece a lot.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now I have to pay if I want to. And I'm like, I'm making a decision whether I want to do that or not. I haven't investigated what it would cost, but I like a lot of their shows. I do get into a trend where I like the period pieces, but then I don't rely on them for anything else. I don't watch TV during the day, except during the pandemic. But it just, I don't know. I'm kind of torn, and that's why I was interested in the topic and listen to hear what they were going to say. But
for full disclosure, and we'll let Stephen jump in, we did invite someone from PBS North Carolina. They referred us to PBS Charlotte, and they were interested, but then they I don't know, I'm not in their minds. I don't know if they were afraid to what we were talking about or whatever the case. I don't know why, because we can open up a whole new market for them. But Stephen, I mean, do you watch PBS? Or I know you're an NPR guy, so what are your
I'm mostly an NPR guy, big fan of NPR. In fact, I helped start a group, Libertarians for NPR. Radio is so good, I'm willing to pay for it. But as far as PBS goes, I'm a fan of Nova and Nature. And because I'm kind of a nerd in that way. I like watching shows about the environment, animals, ecosystems, newest scientific discoveries, astronomy, stuff like that. As a kid, I watched Sesame Street. It's been a long time since I've watched Sesame Street, and I didn't really think about this back then, but I think they had a ethnically diverse.
Yeah, they're very.
I mean, Grover was blue, Elmo was red,
Yeah.
Oscar was green. I'm kidding, of course. Well, I mean, those are those colors. But that
Well,
the
and
humans there were also ethnically diverse. But again, it's been such a long time. And as a kid, you don't really think about that stuff, so I have no idea. Here's the thing, though. Most of the funding from public radio and public broadcast stations, most of that comes from viewers and listeners. You know, they do get a kickback. They do get some subsidy from the federal taxpayer or the state taxpayer, but you know, it's not that much. Every single drive that's ever given, like, you know, oh yeah, sure, we get public money, but it's only like 10% of our operating budget. 90% of everything we do is paid for by you. Like every single drive in the spring, you know, funding drive is that. And the only time that the PBS or NPR people trot out the fact is, oh, we're publicly supported by taxpayers, is when Congress is having the latest
cuts
over the, you know, some sort of political tripe, and they're like, oh, we got to cut the budget, blah, blah, blah. Because if there's a budget squeeze, yeah, sure, maybe we could not invade foreign countries for trillions upon trillions of dollars and kill 1 million people overseas.
Yeah.
But no. We got to cut, you know, a few $1 million out of the budget, you know, because of some shortfall and some political narrative that benefits this election cycle. Then again, that is kind of cynical. But well, I mean, I'm just going through the Charlotte website, and I mean, I'm looking at it, and there seems to be the kind of diversity, Christian, that you like, at least on the website. We got, you know, Asian Americans. We got.
Well, when you look on their website, the ads have people of color, but the actual shows, and I have a list of their shows here. Their 10 shows are all white hosts. And they do have, and this is kind of what I was shocked in what I found, because like y'all, I watch the documentaries, I watch kind of a series, you know, the Ken Burns series on Muhammad Ali's coming out. You know, I'll watch those kind of series, or the series on country music, and I'll watch those series, and Electric Company and Sesame Street. So I assume they were diverse. But when you watch the actual individually produced shows that actually are running shows or series, and this is why I think it's important, the cooks, the travel hosts, the people who host the business hours, all are the local things. Because the person who hosts that show, whether you're Patty's Mexican Kitchen, whether you're Martha Stewart, whether you're the guy that makes cabinets, they own their brand, and they're able to be on these shows all around the country. And then they can write books, they can sell their shows to Netflix, they can sell their shows. So in a way, we're producing these young or these individuals to help their brand, and then they can sell their stuff at Macy's or whatever they want to be. And so if only white people have the ability on PBS to be host of these shows, they're the only people that have brands that are established, and then they actually can make tons of money being a host of a PBS show. And that's one of the things that's concerning. If we're talking about diversity and spreading things like that, we need different people to have the ability to be nurtured like that. And that was one of the reasons I was looking at it more from that perspective, because I don't mind watching period pieces or fictional shows or Downton Abbey, you know, even though I wish they'd hire more people of color actors, because it's fictional, it's not real. They're not talking about it's not a real castle, you know. But these individual shows that are being produced by here in North Carolina and maybe even around the country, those shows are being produced, and then they hire a host, and the host of all these shows are white. And those people establish a brand, a travel show, a cooking show, a cabinet, you know, all of these Carolina collectibles, Country in the Carolinas, a one tank trip, which is a guy who travels throughout Carolina, a Carolina Impact, On the Record, Carolina Business Review, Charlotte Cooks. They're all white hosts, and they have the ability to sell their show around the country, which makes their brand. And, one of the big shows, it's based out of East North Carolina. It's a cook, and she is a young white cook, and she's really an incredible cook. And she's one of the biggest, she's almost like she's one of the biggest cooks around the country, and has a line of pots and pans, has a line at Macy's you can buy. And it is really incredible on the amount of money that these hosts can make by making their brand. So that's really kind of what I was more looking at. So
I guess they're, however they're recruiting these hosts, and I don't know where their recruiting pool is. I don't know if they're finding them in the UNC system and they're recruiting communications majors, and that's where their incubator is. I'd be curious to know what their practices are. But that's what my guess is, because I know the little involvement I had with PBS back in Texas, the local university was involved with or I should say community college was involved with the local PBS channel. And that's where they recruited a lot of their local hosts. And I guess I like to call it like an incubator. They took communications majors and people that wanted to study communications at that school and helped them, do the lighting and the hosting of different special interest shows and things of that nature. So I know how they recruited there. But like you said, every state's different. Every state has its own rules. So it would have been fascinating to have had a UNC representative to actually talked about the practices and how they develop shows, because that may be where we uncover why the host's ethnicity is very one-sided, very vanilla. So, but maybe discussions like this helps create awareness. See you, Barb.
Hi,
Have a good day.
I'm gonna go be chauffeur now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Jenny. Stephen, I don't know if we want to jump in. This is the reason I think it's kind of, I will admit, I'm one of the many Americans that Republicans hate, or at least the Trump Republicans hate, because I am now what we call woke. And I know we talked about this the other day, Stephen. I'm really making a conscious effort to not only identify my privilege and what I just took for granted, but I'm also identifying injustices where I see not only professionally, politically, but in all areas of life. And so when I look at PBS and I look at, which is something that I support, one of the things I never looked at how people established the brand. How did Martha Stewart become Martha Stewart? She started with a local cooking show on a PBS station out of Boston. It became cooking, but also knickknacks and stuff. And then her brand, Martha Stewart, became so big, it started to be picked up nationally. And then she was able to, she owns her name. PBS doesn't own anyone's name. Even Sesame Street isn't owned by PBS. It's owned by the public company that runs that Sesame Street. And she's able to sell her brand all around the world because people know her from PBS. The other lady that was the Southern cook lady out of Louisiana that became a big brand for a while. And there's a lot of Patty's Mexican Kitchen. She is a big brand for some people. I like her. So whenever there's a locally show produced, we may not think, oh, it's just a local show, but the person, it's how brands get started. It would be as if though Jenny, PBS Charlotte said, we really want to do a talk show about issues and we really want Jenny or Stephen, would you mind hosting that show? And they start, and then Jenny's brand becomes so big that the networks pick her up to do her own talk show. And that's how brands get started. And she would have had that. She may not have had that opportunity unless PBS, gave them her an opportunity, because most people, luck into being a talk show host or even if you have a degree in radio, TV, film, you're not in front of the camera. You don't become a brand unless you happen to fill a void or a spot, or, an agent or whatever the case may be. And that's why I think this is really important, is because this is the ability to nurture future brands 20 years from now that will all be buying their pots and pans and so forth. So I don't know. I'm talking too much on this. So Stephen, Jenny, you
devil's
take over.
advocate for a second, and I'll say that
Oh, Christian, you're muted.
Jenny, go ahead and jump in. I'm sorry.
I'm, quite frankly, I've never put much thought into the subject, and it's maybe because I'm, I don't consume.
Yeah.
I'm not a consumer or a viewer of PBS.
coming in now.
Yes.
Yeah, now you're back. You unfroze. So jump back in, Stephen.
All right, so I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. And
No.
yeah. I'll say that the ethnic makeup of these people, these hosts, doesn't matter because people can't help how they're born. So this woman who is now has a big brand of cooking stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is it her fault she's a woman? No, she was born that way. She can't do anything about that. And, if the recruiting pool is from the communication schools, right, or the communications department in schools, well, if there's a specific ethnic makeup, like majority women, because more, colleges are majority women nowadays, right? Like, how are you going to hold that against them? What about equity for men in that case, right? I mean, here's the thing. If you have someone who's good at something and your recruiting pool is either mostly male, mostly female, mostly white, mostly black, Hispanic, whatever, like you can't necessarily help that. Now, you can go out of your way, right, to try to give a broader American experience, right? Like, so you could have a show about, driving while black. Like, that's an actual thing, especially in the Northeast, right? Especially in the Deep South. Like, it's a thing, right? So you can have something like that to bring awareness, or, this Hispanic cooking show, right? Like bringing, Hispanic foods, what's a traditional Honduran dish versus an Ecuadorian dish versus Southern Mexico versus Northern Mexico, and different cooking techniques to bring, the broader variety of what is, the American tapestry there. You can have these things. The host is just necessarily the host. The important thing, the really important thing, in my opinion, would be the guests. Who are the people they're bringing on to discuss these things? Who are the people who are actually providing the content that people tune into? Because I'll tell you this, like, I like politics shows. And so, it doesn't matter to me whether the host is a Republican or a Democrat, right? I don't really care what the political leanings of the host are. I care about the guests. Like, is there going to be a progressive guest on? I want to hear what they have to say. Is there going to be a libertarian guest on? That'd be cool to hear.
Well, Stephen, I will say, because there's about 3 shows that are produced here in North Carolina that talk about politics. They're old, and they're all hosted by old white men. And I also kind of have an idea, I know, for example, on WCNC here, there's a the Ben guy does the show. I forgot the name of it. Talk something or whatever it's called. Anyway, the host does have a lot to do with who comes on, the same way that many of us hire our friends. We will push the producer to bring on someone who we've met or we've seen, which is why on that show on the channel WCNC show, the NBC affiliate here, I can't remember for the life of me the name of that show. He has the same Democrats on quite often because he's friends of. I've seen him at the gay bar. I know who his friends are, and he has those same individuals. He also has this.
But I will say, unless a TV show or a network is paying guests to come on, like some of the major networks actually pay appearance fees and stuff like that, whereas a local show like our show, for example, obviously all this is done donation of time and all that. So I think you work your networks, whether they're friends or associates, or quite frankly whoever's available, in our case, because it's all volunteer, and we're not on a major network other than in the Book of the Face and YouTube. It is a donation in kind for your time, which is valuable. And so I think a lot of times that interpersonal connection, and then in that way the host is important, because it's who you can basically sucker to come in on the show. It's, so if it's a PBS show, for example, and the appearance is donated, the only people that are going to come on are ones that really know the host. And
It's
I think
called
second,
It's called Flashpoint. Flashpoint. Yeah, I'm sorry.
and I think
I'm sorry, go
also
ahead.
too, I think some people won't come on because they're afraid maybe there's going to be a gotcha moment.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, especially with our show,
Yeah.
I'll use our show as an example.
Mhm.
Most of us on here are fairly aggressive. We and very, very politically defined. Like we have
Yeah.
very strong political opinions. I at least can speak for myself.
Yeah.
And so if I was with a certain political persuasion or if I was afraid that there was going to be a gotcha moment on our show, I may or may not come on, and so, I think that's with all shows. I think if you go on The View, for example, the women hosts that are on The View, one of them, because there's so many of them on that show, may take exception to the guest that's on that day. And we've seen some very fiery exchanges, and that may be what makes, the show.
Their show's exciting. Well, I mean, but think about, for example, and I'm going to use Stephen as an example. Stephen, on these, let's say these North Carolina political shows, I remember watching a couple of them. There's two of them, and one of them I remember watching, and they were talking about, they had talking heads. There was the host, and they have about 4 pundits that were talking about elections, and then they were talking about the elections that were coming up, and they were talking, and it was a diverse group. It was, a African-American, a young lady, and a white man, and the host is an old white guy, and he's going around
everything but ideology, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so, he's talking about, but there wasn't any talk about third-party candidates. There was nothing about, people on the ballot. They didn't say, running for governor is this person. They didn't say things like, they said, Roy Cooper and at that time Run Forest Run guy.
Because they're establishment shills.
Exactly. And so you would think if it was a more a host that was more open to that, the host would say, no, let's not forget the other people on the ballot, this person and this person, because they're supposed to be informing the public. And then if all of your information is coming from PBS, for an example, people who live in the rural areas who are coming back home to watch the PBS, not PBS Hour, that's pretty diverse, but your local political shows, because it's the only station you can get when you're camping and you're watching this. Your opinion of people start to form. And the reason I was talking about the host and the local things is because young children who are watching Sesame Street or watching PBS or whatever the case may be, if the only face you see cooking are white women, if the only face you see, there were 3 cabinet shows that teaching you how to make cabinets, it's middle-aged white men. If the only face you see are white men, white women, and then traveling shows, it's white guys who are traveling and they're having a wonderful time. You start to form this opinion that that's what I want to be. I want to build cabinets. I want to be able to cook. I want to travel the world. But in order for me to be that way, I've got to look like that kind of person. You start thinking, and if the only thing you see
that happened to me though, and I don't think that happens to a lot of people. Like, I like watching cooking shows, right? And most of the people who host cooking shows are women. I've never looked at that and thought, well, because I'm a man, I can't cook. No, it's just like, oh yeah, I like that recipe. I'm gonna try it. I like watching travel shows. One of my favorite ones is on the Samsung Smart TV station. I forget the name of it, but it's like the default station you get with certain Samsung Smart TVs.
Yeah.
It's I think the guy's from Puerto Rico. I'm not sure. So I don't know if he'd be white or Hispanic. He talks with a regular East Coast accent, right? And he just goes across the world and travels. I never thought like, oh well, because I'm not a Puerto Rican, I can't travel the world. That doesn't occur to me.
No, but Stephen, you made an excellent point, because what I noticed is the same type of shows that we're talking about on paid television with commercials, they're very diverse. If you wake up and you watch a Saturday morning shows on one of the networks or whatever, their hosts are very diverse, and so we also have to think about what demographic are they actually going after? The reason those shows are diverse is A, they can get more commercials because they're going after a specific demographic, and maybe their viewers are just happen to be more diverse, so they want someone who kind of looks like their audience. On
But couldn't it
PBS,
be part and parcel of though, and it is just the fact that they're, like you said, they probably have a larger market share. Like if we're going to talk about Netflix versus PBS, I mean, no shade on PBS, but if I'm going to pick a subscription between the two entities, I'm watching Netflix, one, because it has, more modern shows, and PBS just doesn't appeal to me anymore. I don't have any kids living at home. There's no programming that they have on there that I want to watch. And I just happen to love Netflix as an example. And I don't watch it because of the diversity. I watch it because they've got entertaining shows. Like, so, I can go under, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a certain way. PBS, I have no other way of saying it, is fairly boring. So it may be because they can't recruit diverse folks or diverse shows because they have a very small market share, versus a Netflix that has huge investments, has huge, has a major subscription base, and that recruiting power, the fact that if you come on PBS and you have a show on there, you get paid pretty good money. I mean, you look at some of the, like Janet Mock, that is a transgender activist, author, and she got a 3-series deal with a nice, I believe the payday was somewhere near the 8-figure mark.
You're talking about Netflix, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about Netflix.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you said PBS. Okay.
But she is a trans woman of color. And I think when you have that recruiting power, plus you have a bunch of zeros behind that first number, I think you can, I hate to say buy diversity, but you can, it's kind of like a vicious cycle. You can go after a larger market because you have a larger market and you have the funding to be able to do it. PBS's Goldfish Bowl is very small.
Yeah, I don't think people are getting rich off of PBS. While they're on, they're not rolling in the dough.
Correct.
Like, Martha Stewart didn't become a millionaire until she went private, right? And
well, but that's kind of what I was talking about, Stephen. Is we wouldn't know about Martha Stewart unless she started on PBS. So PBS for many genres like cooking, travel, construction, even some other talk shows or whatever on here, they're the only place that we have in the United States right now for people to start. But
is that really true anymore?
You guys might find this interesting, actually. Legitimately, and the audience might find this interesting. There is a public broadcasting station in Charlotte. It's Charlotte Local TV or something. The office I used to work at actually was right next door to the building where it's hosted. And anyone who lives in Charlotte, and I think maybe even Mecklenburg County, can actually pay a small fee. It's very affordable. You can go into the studio and you can film whatever you want. Like, you have access to this sort of Charlotte public access television station that is legit like a public access television station. And the only barrier to entry is the nominal fee to get into the studio, and then get to the studio and do your thing. I forget the name of it, but I'm sure if you type in to your favorite search engine, Charlotte Public Access, you can find that station. That's a kind of a cool thing. And that's publicly funded too.
Yeah, it's WTVI, which is PBS Charlotte. I think that's in the UNCC area. Is that correct? Or is that
no, the station is right outside of Uptown, near the stadium.
That's right.
But do you
totally go there one of
them?
Because of YouTube, because of Instagram TV, because of Facebook Live, do you think that the barriers to broadcasting have changed? The rules have changed.
Definitely, the barriers have gone down. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because there's people making hundreds of thousands and some people with millions of dollars a year by going direct to the people on YouTube and getting sponsors and all that. And the Generation Z and the millennials have found a different way, and the PBS, for all intents and purposes, is obsolete. That you know, somebody like Gigi Gorgeous, that's a transgender activist, she became a YouTube star. Instead of trying to find a way on public access, you could just go to YouTube, forget all the PBS stuff, and get a fans only page and a Patreon page and all these things, and self-fund and get a GoFundMe, and buy the equipment and just set up your own broadcasting company. And that's kind of what's happening. I think people are using that as a bypass.
No, Jenny, you make a very good point. No, Jenny made a very good point, and I think that, but I think that highlights the reason that people have, like us, for example, we've had to go around the normal establishment media outlets to do our own thing because that outlet is not available for us at this moment. And so we've had to go around those things. So I do agree with you. We're fortunate that we're now in an era where, you know what, if WCNC is not going to hire someone, then someone can start a YouTube channel. If so-and-so is not given the views of a certain group, then we just go around the establishment. And I agree. I think we have to go around it, but I also don't. I also believe, and this is kind of what we talked about earlier, the "is what it is" kind of statement. I also believe that we can't allow people to say, "Well, PBS is what it is." No, it's our public broadcasting. We have the right to demand people, especially in 2021. We should be demanding that all the things that we have access to reflect us. Do I expect 50% of the shows on PBS to be about Latinx individuals? No, but I expect 20%.
But Christian, most of my friends are older Gen Z and younger millennials. Yeah. If they don't watch PBS, if they don't care about PBS, they'll go, if PBS approached them and said, "We'd love for you to host a show, about modern dance music, for example, and what are the new dance crazes," they're going to go, "I already have that on YouTube. I already have 1 million followers."
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
And so I think, and I'm not making an excuse for PBS, but I think the market for broadcasting has changed so much, and it's kind of left PBS behind because PBS is stuck to the tried and true 1960s and 70s footprint.
Sure.
That even the major networks don't do anymore, like CBS, Paramount. Their streaming service is fabulous. I mean, they've got as many viewers that stream it, including myself. But I don't even watch TV on a TV anymore. I watch it on the iPad that I'm broadcasting on right now. And so there is a lot. The market has changed. The rules have changed. And so, whereas I agree with you, Christian, that PBS needs to broaden their horizons, I think they've kind of hemmed themselves in. Like they've literally, like when you're painting a room and you accidentally painted yourself into a corner. I'm not so sure PBS hasn't done that to themselves, and they
because if
themselves obsolete.
Let's let Stephen jump in, and then we need to kind of end the show here.
So I'll just say this, Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong. So what you're saying is the free market and private enterprise offers better products than what a government program or government service can provide.
Yes.
In this case, yes. In this case, yes. Yeah, it's not always necessarily true. It's not always necessarily safe, but
I'll
in this case,
victory I can get on that regard.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's attributed to the market or just the fact that technology's evolved. And I think, I think with any subject, whether we're talking about health, when we're talking about healthcare or we're talking about anything, I think sometimes the technology changes the game so much that when there's certain players in a market, like the subject we're talking about today, the technology have rapidly evolved, and the companies and entities that were in the market did not evolve with it, and so that is an issue, and PBS doesn't really, they're not competitive anymore, and there's so much children's programming on different deals and streaming services. They, quite frankly, I mean, you can go on YouTube and there's, I don't know how many millions of channels there are on YouTube. I mean, you can go in there and I can learn how to swap out a faucet in my shower,
which
in 5 minutes. I could get in there. I mean, there's so much diversity in programming.
It's like Bob Vila, eat your heart out.
Yeah, and you don't have to wait for Bob Vila to come on. There's so much on-demand programming, and there's so many voices. It's like millions of voices screaming out, and you're trying to be heard, like Christian is right now. And PBS is just getting drowned out.
So okay, so let's just try this one more time to see. What I had this joke in this house, since I have tried to become a little bit more woke and the things that I support. Like, I won't watch a series or a show if there are not any actors that look like me or look like America. If it's just a show that has all people that don't look like me, like I don't watch any Woody Allen movies, is because apparently there's no black people in New York City. If you look at Woody Allen movies, I don't watch. So if I see a series when I'm scanning through Netflix, Prime, YouTube, Hulu, all the ones that we subscribe to, I look at the actors, and if there's not a lot of diversity in there, I can watch something else. It doesn't interest me. I also don't watch a lot of violence, so I don't watch a lot of action movies as well. So when I watch PBS and I look at Downton Abbey, I look at all their period pieces, I don't watch any of those because it's, first of all, they're fictional. They're not based on real people. If it was a history piece, I'd be interested in it, but they're not real people. And so I'm like, they can't find any people of color actors in those countries that they're looking for. And I've always joked about it until I saw the period piece that was a big hit this last year on Netflix, and it's called Bridgerton. And I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to try one more time. So y'all tell me if you can see this. Can you see that? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. All right. We're going to play the trailer. They finished their first season. They're going into a second season. So when I said PBS must only have period pieces, or the BBC period pieces with white actors because they can't find any black actors in England. Then I saw this show, and let's watch it.
Has anyone else read what Lady Whistledown's written plate? Do not tell me that is yet another scandal sheet. This one is different. This subject's my name. My name is Lady Whistledown. You do not know me, and never shall. But be forewarned, dear reader, I certainly know you. The social season is upon us. We shall discover which young ladies might succeed at securing a match. Let it be known, if there's a scandal, I shall uncover it and share every last detail.
So this was a huge hit. It's a period piece. The main characters, 3 of the main characters of the 5 are people of color. The Queen, this is not really based on a real thing, but the Queen is called Queen Charlotte in this series. And I first saw the teaser, I was like, because I'm so used to like the all white period piece people in them. I was like, this is gonna be kind of cheesy. They're trying to be real diverse. It's really good. I mean, it's like really exciting. I was like, it can be done. And
yeah, but to be fair, Christian, though, I mean, I think you can't comparing apples and oranges, because heck, I'm pretty sure the producers of Bridgerton
Mhm.
got a pretty fat payday.
Yes.
And I'm pretty
You know what,
sure
let me
if they
say
approach
this, I'll be
PBS,
that guy. There's
I
not a
mean-
whole lot of class diversity there. It's all a
No.
bunch of rich upper class bourgeois folks. Where's the working class representation, man?
Which is why I like it.
Says the working class guy.
but I mean, but I mean,
let's-
but you know, I think again, I think, you know, when you got the competition of Disney Plus,
Yeah.
HBO Max,
Mhm.
Netflix, CBS streaming, and we can go on and on and
Yeah.
on and on, you know, Hulu. I mean, there's so many things that I can now download the app, watch it on my phone or my
Yeah.
device. I truly believe that PBS, especially PBS, is a relic. And I'm not trying to be cruel, but in the words of Stephen, the market has spoken, and it's found PBS to be lacking.
Well,
And
I
not
guess
that he said that, but
No.
I mean the market forces
Yeah.
in this particular case
Sure.
has driven PBS to the dusty shelves of TV history, and I think when you're recruiting in such a small pool, you know, not to give them a reason to not be diverse, but it may be just boring old white men. They're the only ones they can recruit, you know,
Well,
especially when you talk
that's-
about political stuff. I
No,
mean,
that's an excellent point. I guess the only thing because my question was, can't they hire people of color to do period pieces? And this show is one of the first big period piece shows that prove that you can have a black queen, the black duke, all these are people of color. If you saw in the first scene, there was the little delivery boy, the paper boy was a little black boy. The two lady were Asians. And you can tell you can have actors, regardless of what they look like, to Stephen's point, just the best actors, and they can pull it off. And I was like, I hope this changes the landscape, because I love history. I love period pieces. And to Stephen's point, I like bougie stuff. And so, you know, to be able to see, so I would love to see things like this based in Mexico City, where there's a lot of bouginess in Mexico City. There's a lot of very wealthy people, and there's a lot of not wealthy people. And I would like
But I
to
think-
see.
but I think that's going to be on a platform of Netflix.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think quite frankly, you know, it's going to be on a streaming service where people are going to get paid, because just like anybody, whether you're a person of color or a white person, if you have a good product, you want to get paid for your work. And if it is producible on a major network, I wouldn't pick PBS as my platform. They have a small audience with no money, or I can go to Netflix or Discovery Plus or any
Sure.
of these huge networks
Well,
that have a huge audience,
sure.
and they have money. I
Okay.
mean, that's the
All
whole
right.
point of doing this.
All right, I need to cut us off, but let's get Stephen to say the last word, and then we'll wrap it up here. But before he says it, I'm always reminded of our really good friend who we lost this year, Joel Oldham, who, when we were talking about, I don't know if you remember the show we had, and he was talking about, someone told me, well, there's a lot of black billionaires, and he said, there's only 10. Remember he made that comment? Well,
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I almost had the same comment when I'm watching PBS shows, and people say, well, there's a lot of diversity on there. There's only one Mexican lady cooking, everyone else is white. You know, that was my comment. And then he also would say, believe me not, I could not find, you know, he would say that term. So I'm just reminded of Joel when we do shows like this. So Stephen, your last word, and then we'll wrap up the show. Give us the last word on this.
Nova is a really good show.
Yeah, PBS has a lot of really good primetime shows. I guess, you know,
He got a CPD historical moment where Stephen actually kept under 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Hey, we need to follow Jenny. So let's try to do that. All right, listen, this has been a really good show. Once again, didn't turn out anything. No one agreed with me. So that's not uncommon. So maybe we'll see one of y'all, or Barbara or Ruth, on a PBS locally produced show out of Raleigh that will go national, and then we'll start buying Mama Ruth pillows or Mama Ruth sheets. Who knows? We'll see how that happens. So with that said, let's end our show today. Next week, I do want to let you know that we do have a couple of Thursday night kind of special shows that we're doing on topics that are important to us. Tomorrow night, our first Thursday night show in a while, the topic is transgender hate equals murder. We want to talk about the transgender murders that occurred recently in North Carolina, but also across the country. I hope you'll join us. It's at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Will be 1 hour. We'll try to keep it to exactly an hour. Tomorrow, Thursday at 8 p.m. And then we also have another show on May the 6th, a Thursday night. The title is, Will Banning Assault Rifles Stop America's Gun Violence Epidemic? And then subline, or is it too late? We'll talk about gun violence epidemic. And we'll have someone from Moms Demand Action on. Hopefully we'll have Stephen on, I know who has his views as well. And of course, we'll usually always have Jenny. And then we also have a one in the very last, not the last, but on Thursday, the 20th, we want to talk about something that's really important that we don't always talk about. We will reach almost 600,000 deaths in America due to COVID-19 or related to COVID-19. And the New York Times did a story. They called these social murders because they were a part of a society that ignored a virus like the AIDS crisis. Those were called social murders during the time period. So the title is 600,000 Social Murder Deaths in a Pro-Life America. So we want to talk about how can we have 600,000 of our neighbors die in what most people call a pro-life country. So we want to talk about that briefly. Please join us. But more excitingly, the next show, the regular show this Wednesday, next Wednesday, is our periodic, the Chancla Show. This will be our third Chancla show. We will be talking about chanclas, and we'll be honoring Cinco de Mayo because Cinco de Mayo will be next Wednesday. And just for everyone who knows, Cinco de Mayo is not a Mexican holiday. It's an invented holiday here in America. 16 de September is Mexican Independence Day, the 16th of September. But Cinco de Mayo is celebrated because it's the battle between the French and the Spanish. But it really has not a lot to do with Mexico, other than it happened in Mexico. And so,
Battle of Puebla.
Yes, that's right. That is correct. That's correct. And so, but it's our chancla show. So don't forget to bring your chanclas to the show. And I'm sure Mama Ruth will bring her big cloppers where she throws them around. So with that said, let's go around the Brady Bunch screen. Tell us where you're going to be. Then we'll end the show. We went over. We do value your time. We'll start with Stephen and then Jenny and then me. Since
Okay, so
all right.
I'm going to be at home hanging out, friends, family, whatever. And I'm going to go watch a show on Nova because that's a great show.
Well, I won't be watching Nova, but more power to everybody that does. But I will be going to a housewarming deal in Noda on Friday night. I will be here tomorrow night and just doing my thing. And that's about it. I'm not really going anywhere per se. So I'll turn it over to Christian.
All right. Well, St. Bernie will be in the same seat since he doesn't move because it's too hard to get all those candles and St. Bernie there. Maybe baby Trump Pinata will make a visit in the next couple of months. We're happy without him. But I do value your time. Thank you so much. I'll be camping this weekend. We are going to Four Paws, which is a camping site dedicated to just dogs. And it is we'll be having a wonderful time. And also, once again, we do want to thank you. We'll see you next week with our topic, the Chancla Show, and then tomorrow night about transgender murders as well. And so with that, we will say goodbye. We miss you, Ruth, Barbara. We miss you as well, and everyone else. And thank you, everyone else who commented on the show on Facebook as well, and those who watched us as well. We'll end with some music. We'll end with some music. All right, we'll see you next week, y'all. That was so lame.